Oh, I'm convinced Saved by the Bell and this D-bag is how we got Trump. Like, seriously, this show is the worst. And like, even when I was watching it as like a teenager and all that stuff, I remember thinking this show is awful. It's like terrible. And we all have that, like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so scared. Right? Like, a lot of us, especially if you're Gen X, I don't know, an older millennial, you grew up with this crap and you're probably like reciting and all that stuff. And we always knew that, like, Zach Morris was an arrogant prick, right? But he's not just that. He's a terrible human being. He fails forward. He is like the quintessential awful, entitled, spoiled white man, but as a teenager. I mean, but I think a lot of things explain Trump. Racism, anti-black, misogyny, capitalism, like all the things, right? But this, people who are storming the Capitol grew up with this dude. So there's a great channel that has been talking about Zach Morris being trash for a long time. It's literally called Zach Morris is Trash. And that's when I really started to like dig into Saved by the Bell and be horrified by what I grew up with and a whole generation grew up. But also when I go back and look at this stuff, as like depressing as it is, it actually gives me a lot of comfort because I'm like, oh, this explains how we got here. This, like, look at this. One of the episodes, it's always like that time Zach Morris sold swimsuit photos of an underage girl. And this episode goes all into like this, like the premise of these episodes is horrifying when you go back and look at it. There's another one called That Time Zach Morris Used Subliminal Messages to Brainwash Girls Into, like, the conclusion at every episode is Zach Morris is trash because he is. And yet he's the hero of the show. Now, when Breaking Bad and like Sopranos and Nurse Jackie and all these like the anti-heroes or whatever became like the big thing, which they've always been a thing. At least they were written in a way where you were supposed to like always know that they're terrible people, And even though, and I've done a whole series on Breaking Bad and how our culture, it could have been written differently so that we didn't have so much empathy for Walter and Jesse and all that. And actually, and there was a way to prevent people from literally hating Anna Gunn, like the person, the actress, like some of that. They were not aware of how bad patriarchy is and misogyny in the United States, especially. So they should have been more mindful of that, but they tried. They really tried. But this show rewards Zach for being trash. There's no like, oh, I mean, he's kind of he's not a good guy. He's a terrible human being, and yet he's the hero of the show. And he always wins. Like, even when he learns a lesson, he doesn't because he keeps doing this crap. Like, one of my favorite episodes, of course, was when he got Jesse hooked on caffeine pills. It's like everyone else in this show, even Slater, who we're supposed to hate because he's the jock and all that stuff, all of them are such better people than him. The principal's even better than him. And poor Screech, this dude is like the worst to Screech. Here's another one. The time Zach Morris told his girlfriend's little sister to hook up with him twice. Like, that time Zach Morris orchestrated a car accident that almost killed his girlfriend. And yet all of these scenarios in which he does the most selfish, self-serving thing, he usually gets like minimal consequence and puts everyone else in danger. That time Zach Morris fat shamed a girl who won him in a charity auction. That time Zach Morris tricked his friends into joining the army and then abandoned them. Like, that time Zach Morris used slave labor to sell friendship bracelets. That time Zach Morris forced a teacher's strike to go skiing. God. That time Zach Morris gave himself a homeless girl for Christmas. That time Zach Morris lost his teacher's car investing in potatoes. I don't even know what this means. I don't remember this episode. But you know what I mean? Like, how is it such a mystery that people would look to someone like Trump, who literally never experiences consequences, keeps failing forward like a typical privileged white man with money, has no respect for women because is willing to just, put them in harm's way, exploit them in every way possible. Is like the popular, the dude, and then he gets Kelly. He has Kelly for a girlfriend. Like, from what I remember, she was a pretty sweet girl. And what's really funny is I remember thinking that Jesse was like so annoying. I love Kelly because she was pretty and whatever. But like, I mean, I kind of remember her being a little dumb, but I don't know. Maybe that was my own internalized misogynistic take. But Jesse, I remember her being so, so focused, so like she was set up to succeed. And he's like, hey, you want to try some caffeine pills? Like, if we've learned anything from this show, it is stay out of the orbit of king babies like Zach Morris. And definitely don't marry them because they will ruin your life. God.